go. Let me see. How is this? Everybody.
We're okay?
Yeah. Okay, good. I think it's working.
It's working okay?
I think
Yeah.
it's working.
I must say, I wouldn't mind being upside down, but perhaps it would be a little bit awkward.
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you for
Yes,
being
thank you all for
patient.
being patient. We had minor technical difficulty. Should I turn on another?
Talk, please.
What's that?
Can you talk louder, please?
Okay. Am I okay now?
It's a little soft, I think.
Oh,
Go ahead.
maybe the volume in the...
Go ahead. Talk.
Yeah, okay. I will keep talking. Welcome, everyone. Here we are in September. The summer is fast passing us by, at least in the northern hemisphere. Okay, we're okay? Okay. Should I turn on this light over there? Yeah? I can do it.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. That's okay. Perhaps this is what the very early days of television were like. People going, oh, I don't know. Except for that, all the people who are actually on screen had to wear very special makeup to emphasize contrast for this black and white thing. At least we can see one another in color. So, again, welcome. We're here, kind of like a blink of an eye, I would say. It seems like it was just last week, was just yesterday once again. And we're already in September. And let me put this on the side. Maybe I put this here. It's a little bit dangerous. Yeah. So, can everyone see me and hear me? Okay. Oh, right. Great. And the world is in the middle of, in the midst, I should say, of a very, in a way, terrible experiment. I mean, here you have certain countries well in control, certain countries not at all, but all trying to open up our economies, so to speak, because this summer, which with the lockdowns and the social distancing, etc., has created havoc with the world's economies, as we say. So the experiment is simply, what will the difference be whether you have a controlled situation or an uncontrolled situation? Already we do have a bit of information about that, because despite protestations from politicians, etc., to the contrary, certain politicians, I should say, the world is still not at all free of this virus. And again, within this period of 1 week, we've had more than 1.5 million cases. This is every week we seem to go up 1.5 million. So the world is already close to 26 million COVID-19 cases. And the United States is holding very steady at around 1,000 fatalities every day. So we are approaching 190,000 total fatalities in the U.S. Very soon we'll probably be at 200,000. Yet our experiment goes on. And it's also seems like in certain places categories of people seem to be expendable. So certain categories of people can get the virus, they can pass away, whatever, but the economy has to go on. Okay, now at the same time, we have this terrible increase of tension around the world. Of course, in the United States, we have the debacles in Kenosha, in Portland, and a general kind of unease in the country. You still have the situation in Ukraine, and what I've been reading about recently is there are heightened tensions between Greece and Turkey once again. Seems like nothing ever changes, but periods of stress in the world, whether they have to do with disease or with natural disasters or whatever, actually bring out ancient prejudices and ancient conflicts. It's very odd and very, very disturbing, when on the contrary... What's that? I'm sorry. That's okay. Yeah. I always respond. I'm told I should not respond. I should just continue. Okay. So, and of course, we have this. Australia is in recession, so there definitely are huge economic problems. Economics is a kind of hobby of mine, and I'm not going to get into things today, but maybe I will, perhaps even next week, about the problem of what money is and how it, in a sense, it's not... I'm sorry. How if we get rid of a certain kind of prejudice, many of our so-called economic problems actually can be solved. I don't have all the answers, but I have studied a few. Okay, now, yes, time to go to our topics for today, and I will continue with Nielsen first. I apologize once again. I was really trying to do too much, and it's impossible to give a kind of quick overview of something. I don't know, at least impossible for me. So I will do that in a minute, but first I have to speak once again about the psychological aspect of the piece, about how Nielsen actually juxtaposes different characters, how he also creates this sense of uncertainty. You know, other composers have done the same, and a very striking example of that, like a striking example of everything, was by Beethoven. And it's the last movement of his Opus 18, number 6, the 6th quartet, and it has a subtitle, Melancholia. Melancholia says melancholy, we think of in English as sadness, but actually at the time it was, in fact, a clinical condition, which could be kind of clinical depression, or in fact, even sort of kind of depression, manic depression, etc., etc. Of course, melancholia came from this medieval, actually it's not even medieval, it's ancient, what should I say, division of our nature into four humors. And melancholia it actually comes from the ancient Greek, and it means black bile. And the bile, black bile, was the humor, or I should say, which were in a certain way symptoms, but they were also tied with various organs of the body. I don't deal with that right now, but black bile was the cause of this kind of clinical depression. Now, I just will want to play this for you. And again, I put this together and then I took it apart, which was really sort of dumb. But here we go. I try once again. And see how we do. Because somehow, come on. Great. Now I go to here to make sure. Oh no, this way. Sorry, I never. There. Good. Okay. Introduction.
What are you playing?
This is the last movement of Beethoven, Opus 18, number 6. And it has the subtitle Melancholia. And it's a very striking example of this sort of psychological exploration of sense of depression, or basically uncertainty is the way I put it even more. see it after this brooding introduction, but actually introduction which is kind of searching without goal in a certain way. We have exactly the opposite. We have this kind of manic section after this. Then, of course, this will come back in the piece. I just wanted to play this through to highlight how music can not explain, but describe or characterize psychological states, and how that has been the case throughout history. Okay, I go get rid of this right now. I will come back to it. Let me actually turn this off, I think. And I'll turn it back on later. Okay. And I go to Nielsen. I'm still missing something, so sorry. Okay. Maybe I do need a clarinet. Is this correct? This one? I think so, but I have a feeling that I don't want to use this setup. I don't know if I can use this. Should it be this one? Maybe not. Maybe this is okay. Yeah, I'll be all right. I can use this. I'll put this back here. And I try to put the mouthpiece on correctly. Okay. And for the moment, I take this away. So I have this there. And I go to the piano. Now, the reason I decided I should continue a little bit with Nielsen is, first of all, I felt that as I was going on last week, because I was trying to get through stuff, material, I should say, in a very quick way, and I had too much material, I became less clear, and I also did not really speak about what I wanted to speak about, and that is the section here. And I didn't even actually clearly outline this section. This is the second part of the piece. The piece divides really into two parts, which, although connected, are quite different in a way. And of course, it comes from rehearsal measure 20, for those of you who have the music. And it starts with this French horn solo, of course, with that. And as I mentioned, yeah, one second, I have something here. I know I'm not supposed to touch my face, but at least I'm home. Okay, so we have this horn solo of, what's it, 14 measures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, 14 measures there, which is sort of pointing out to this main chord, or I should say the fundamental chord of this piece, which seems to be very dear to Nielsen's heart, or another way of saying it is sort of characterizes the personality of Nielsen, which is this, of course. And then the other, these two versions of this chord, and the melodies that he has are derived from these chords, etc., and they function so that in every significant place we see this chord there. And I recapitulate just a little bit, because his sense of interval is very important. And I keep mentioning this because if there's many performers in listening to this, watching, we need to be sensitive to the meaning of these intervals in order to actually get a feeling of this piece, and to make this piece into what I would call significant and what should I say, musical, in a way, composition. So I go back here, and we first have this either quotation, as I mentioned, or this, again, kind of expanded notion of icon, expressive icon, coming out of Mozart. And I can mention this again here. We have this. And then from here, he changes, and the interval content going there becomes more troubled than what it was before. And going here, and this is in his manuscript, but I believe, and I'm not sure whether I mentioned this before or not, that the a tempo, which is here, is actually in the wrong place. And I'll explain why. Because we have this. And it settles on that, which again is his fundamental chord, and which will go directly into the horn solo. So, in a sense, he did not have to write these 4 measures after this, but they are kind of an Eingang, again, a la Mozart or a la whatever classical piece composer you will be interested in. Is there something you need?
Measure 40? 40?
No, 2. Before, not measure. I have a, I unfortunately, let me see if I...
Sorry, I mixed up.
Yeah, one second. Let me take a look, because I refuse to get the later edition for various reasons. I have a score somewhere. No, orchestral score. that may have the. What do I do with it? Oh, here. Maybe that has measure numbers, but I think that they don't in general. But may I ask people, do you have rehearsal numbers? They have rehearsal number. This is rehearsal number 20. And maybe someone can answer me also. Is rehearsal number 20 this part? Or if you have a clarinet part, it's 14 measures, actually more than that, rest. Before we come to the next section. It's measure 20 also is allegro non troppo. Is it okay? Do we, yeah? All right. Well, I mean, hopefully you will know. So, anyway, we come here, and then that should rest here, and then that becomes which goes right into this next section there. So from this rest, and I will always play the a tempo after that. And in any case, he writes a piacere, and in other words, this is cadenza. And these four measures are very interesting because they start out with all his good intervals. Which actually form his primary chords. And then the second half, although he does, in order to fit everything together, have a couple of good intervals, basically has his bad intervals. In other words, the ones of stressful. It goes into there. So even here we have this juxtaposition of what is healthy in a way and what is not. What is calm in a way and what is not. Okay. So then we move on, and I mentioned how we're basically go into E major and B major here. So we have, but he does go. So he does have this kind of melismatic sort of moving around this E that we have, and using these primary chords. And then the clarinet comes in, though, in B major. And there it is very naive. Again, in an almost academic way, I should say, or a very obvious way. It's just like the very opening of the piece. Is like that, and you know, that's as these are all parts which are explicitly naive, explicitly in a way musically not sophisticated, completely on purpose. So we have, but then again immediately then so we have, and all of a sudden this F major just sort of interjects itself, and then C, and then we have here goes to the F, but so we again in this section we have this whole sort of moving to F, but there F, yes, but being in a different key basically, and then we move on. And Nielsen has a kind of compositional technique where he moves through something, and I probably mentioned this before, but I'm going to emphasize this now because we need to, as performers, to understand this as well. He moves and then he gets stuck. He sort of gets stuck in a place. And again, this has a kind of psychological sense to it again. The fact that I can't get out, and then he breaks either with a sudden gesture, whether it has to do with all of a sudden the snare drum coming in, or a sudden change of harmony, and I will look at that more. But here we have this, after this place here, the piano, and then we go. Should go to F minor, but that no, and that F sharp here is taken up by the orchestra. And then he gets stuck here, trying to go back to F. He has E flat minor, which would go to there, but he doesn't do that, but he tries to. Then he gets stuck. So he just gets stuck in this way, and then all of a sudden the clarinet comes in, totally different here, because we are right now with this kind of this fifth, the B flat and F, as if we're, but where that the fourth instead of here, we have it going into this A, which is part of D major and then moves to E major that way. Okay, so this constant, it's not even a contrast, it's a struggle to try to reach F, but always coming to the wrong place is very apparent here. Then we move on to finally here. And this is again a section very much, this is like Bach. And this becomes the central part of this piece, in fact. Everything before this, in a certain way, was introduction. And this is the part that I wanted to go over and explain. So first we have this, with this big pedal on C. And then we move on, and maybe I play on the clarinet simply because I guess we're clarinetists, it's nice to do that. And here we have again these two again this C major, F sharp, C major, F sharp, And as he goes on to, and again, and it goes to F. There. So we have the same thing happen, and as we had before, rather. And then from this point, this section, in a certain way, takes off. And what we have here is a kind of juxtaposition of characters. And if you notice that 24, this is rehearsal number 24, he writes molto cantabile e ben tenuto. And he will write this ben tenuto a couple more times here. So the first thing we have is, again, kind of scherzando, a little bit sort of harking back to the beginning of the piece. From I get myself confused all of a sudden. I think it's this chair which moves him back and forth. I can't get used to it. And then we have, again, and then, and this moment we have ben tenuto. And all of these places have this sense of here, this sort of uneasy, sort of whole tone, augmented sense, which, of course, emphasizes this kind of uncertainty that we have here. And going on, of course, and then back to F. And I spoke about this section in the very first one when I was talking of expressive icons and how Nielsen expanded that notion so that we can look at things maybe as quotations of earlier of Mahler, of Chopin, of different of Bach, etc., etc. But rather than that, it's better to see them as expressive gestures which come out of musical history. And that is a psychological sense because, of course, as you're studying music, you study music from different periods. If you're a performer, you play music of different periods. And here, it's as if we're thinking the past, the present, maybe the future. Again, I digress and I just give another little shout out or homage to Harold Bloom, the great literary critic, and this sense of misreading and how misreading can be very creative. So, by that I mean, I may not be right. I may be totally wrong about all of this. You may think I'm wrong too, and that's absolutely okay. Because what I'm doing here is trying to spur imagination, and for a performer to make something compelling, that's what we need. And we have to exercise our imagination, and in a certain way we have to practice it. So we don't only practice our scales, our technique, etc., we do, but we should practice our imagination, our conception of things. And maybe it's totally wrong. But even if it's totally wrong, it may be very right. Okay, so we have here, and it's very romantic. This is. With all of these gestures which come out of the 19th century, come out of famous pieces, And even going on, we have here. And going on. And that brings us here to D minor with this. It's D major to D minor. This way to F, to so that's always this going around this F and its relative minor to D, but to different places with sort of moving there, but always sort of not settling on that. And here again, before that he writes fluente. So this has in the sense of rubato, the sense of cadenza even within this section. So this sort of and we can notice that he's trying to reach this as we go from the B to the C here, there, and then he should go down to an F at the end, but he goes only to F sharp, and then finally to D major, and D minor. This way. He's like and then again another romantic gesture, and the way I see this in a very personal way is that we actually have in this section not only different personalities, different characters, but different tempos. So again, here we have what we can consider this molto espressivo, ben tenuto. And again, this gesture, which is kind of hyper-romantic. With this almost Wagnerian kind of chromaticism there. And then going back. And then we have this part here, which is one of the kind of weirdest sections of the piece, although the weirdest is coming up, I must say. And that goes from here. We have and then this way, as if he's trying to reach again the F from here. I explain it this way, so as I will. There we have that. This yeah, and then my button. But finally, settling not on the F. And then this next part moves from here back to F. And then So, what should I say? I'm going to really be speaking about sense of performance, and we get to a passage like this. And it goes like, huh? What was that? That's one weird little passage. That's what I hear. So, again, we need imagination as performers to see this and to make this into something which somehow makes sense. And if it makes sense to us as performers, it will make sense to the people who are listening and will make the piece itself make sense and be more emotionally, maybe if not satisfying, significant for people. So from here we have this, and he writes marcato. And I believe if we look through the piece that the marcato, that when he writes that, does not simply mean to play rhythmically straight or to play in a kind of a chopped way or something like that, but actually has a great sense of tenuto. So, no, I'm not in the right place, but I don't know how to move on. And then we're there, and this is from here. We are in either A major or F sharp minor, so we are totally wrong here. So then he goes, and he goes to the A flat, and we have it there to go into F minor, but which he doesn't quite do, but it's implied for this. So I always hear, okay, 30-second notes. Yeah, I made it. But perhaps and then again ben tenuto with our more kind of heavy and slower tempo. Etc., etc. Then again the clarinet comes in, and we have another very romantic gesture as we come here and C major. And this C major is like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm home. Not really. So we move here, and it becomes, from this C major, it gets more and more tortured. And then, again, we have our little quotation from Chopin. But then, again, he goes and distorts that. And then we move on, again, with very different music here. So what am I trying to do here is to show how we can look at this and then play this in a way which gives it psychological significance. And then we have this, and this should go, but again going to A and rather than the A flat there, and that it goes down here. And this also is made up of these gestures which came out of the 19th century. So, ooh, next one here. And again, this other kind of expressive 19th century icon. No. F sharp. And then we go on, and perhaps I do not really look at this in great detail. It's that we this is this other music, although it actually works out. Maybe I shoot a little bit. So he's basically, and then next. So we have that. It's just this diminished chromatic progression, which he melodically pulls out to make it sound kind of weird in a way, but goes then to C minor. So once again, we are in our sort of primary territory, but not at all stable, and he ends up with another of these romantic icons. You know, then oh, what am I doing? If I look at the music, I can't play. That's really funny. And then this section, in a way, is the most weird part of the whole piece. And what's interesting, and this I wanted to show you, well, this is why I have this here, and hopefully I actually have this where I can show you pretty well. Yeah. Here we have, this is his clarinet part. This is, again, part of the manuscript. Can you see it? Yeah. Which is, in my opinion, for us the most important source in this piece. Okay, and here we have our gesture, going there, and then he gives you 27 measures rest, and then this next page, and then he goes right to the cadenza. Yeah, you see. So this was, and then I should show you the page after that, actually, because he doesn't go back at all and refill in this, but he copies again the cadenza in a kind of nicer form here. Yeah, you can see that. Okay. And remember this. You see going here, G sharp, A natural. I've spoken about that, and I will come back to that again. This is here. Remember, if in the publication it's A flat, and then the A natural was never made into a natural. There. But we come to this place, which is very, very weird to me. And that ends, let me put this here, and I'm going to keep this out just in case I need to show this again, with all this. And of course, it's related, it's a transitional place, which is related, like all the transitional plays, to this beginning, which is from the beginning, which is at rehearsal number 7, just the first. Okay. And we have this curious, in a certain way, jolly, in a way, bassoon solo. That way. And the clarinet comes in, of course, with a C. And remember, this starts with an A. So, although this is basically moves to E, he actually does keep emphasizing this F and F major in particular. So this, and then here we have, so this way these do as he brings in the instruments. Okay. I'm not going to go over this in tremendous detail, but it is very weird, and there are a few very important little features of this. And this, he has the A flat here, and the clarinet comes in here, but then he puts an E here, which of course then goes and then with this as that comes out of that augmented melody that we have earlier. And let me play that for you, so I can show you the sort of connection that we have here. Yeah, and we start this way, and that's the prelude, the horn solo before the clarinet comes in. Then we come back to here. Why can't I find anything? Yeah, okay. So we have here. And this is kind of combining, in a way, that this melody here with this here. This way. Which then Nielsen ends up. as that, but this way, which comes out of course, that passage there. Okay, but it is very weird, and I'm not going to explain the weirdness particularly, except to say here he starts on C, and we have this little curious duet with bassoon, and the strings going very, very odd way with the triplets. But the significant part of this is here. So we go from here and there he emphasizes the F here. And then it goes to here with this very oddly, it's actually an octave higher with the harmonics here, but in F, it's an F7 chord. And then he settles on E here. So it's as if we have here that happening, and here we have and then we have this again. This is F, and we have that. So with that E is very present, and then and it's there that in a way which is kind of really in your face. This E. Do I have any kind of that's okay? People are probably listening to me going, no idea what's happening. Okay, so and this is kind of again like this pedal point and quasi cadenza as well. So and again this F with a C. And then this. So this, which it generally is played da-da, I think actually needs to be somehow emphasized in a very, very significant way. And then it starts to change it rather than going. I'm done. No. Then and then we get this really weird part. B major, as we're going. This incredibly odd little section, which I played too fast, just to get through it. And I have a terribly sneaky suspicion that this is somehow related to which I would not be surprised if Oxenvad knew. and maybe even showed to Nielsen. And again, this is my misreading of this piece. Okay. But the interesting thing about it is that we start going to here, and we have this E here. And then we have this here. And then we have this here. But we also have this. So he goes from here to his kind of primary chord. This way. And from that G sharp, which then that's the C sharp, and this is in the orchestra, which is kind of oblivious to what happens in other places, sort of, this way, ends up being our fundamental chord in inversion. It's like the very beginning when I was upside down. And that is 1/2 step too high. So it's there. And this part here is so curious because it is totally convoluted, but yet makes perfect sense. Then sorry about that. Then and then it's a little bit. There we have that here. So this is this big moment where he, in this incredibly weird way, he moves from this way in this very kind of grand way, but totally nuts. And I think the poco meno should not be too slow, probably, but maybe not as fast as I played. Anyway, then we go on. And there he actually goes through the theme, which is this theme of this whole last section. And then he goes down to the E, C sharp here, and of course that's the bottom of the clarinet, so that makes perfect sense. And it does have good meaning because it is somehow in between whether we go to F or to D or to C, like that. So here, and beginning is just like the first cadenza and before. It is. Moves in a very, very classical way. And so we go through that. Oh. And it's important to hear the fact, I think, in all of these passages, that he's actually writing normal harmonic progressions, just sort of stretched out. So we eliminate the weirdness factor of these kinds of places. Okay, and then here, of course, oops, you know, I apologize. It's this chair. This absolutely the chair. Then we come to the interesting place. Which you get stuck at. But what is this? Listen carefully. And then we have this. And then we find this is a paraphrase of this here. And if we look at it, here we go. As we start here with the B, and then we have that, but then you say, then again it goes to the F again there, that he's taking elements from this part and putting them into this cadenza. Now, this is also an interesting feature of this piece, which, if as a performer we understand, can make things like this more comprehensible to us. And this is similar. I'll show you the other very obvious place, of course, which I played for you in the beginning, which is here, and the section at 10 there, which is the tonguing section, and it's from the part here where we start with the F sharp there. And remember that Nielsen originally wrote a G sharp after that, and that becomes very important, and that's why I believe that it should be there, and the rest actually confuses things tremendously. All of that basic whole tone kind of progression, which of course came from here, from that, you see. So, and there are other places to which I haven't shown, but if you look carefully, you will find them where he takes what was in the orchestra or something significant early and then puts it in a kind of less obvious way into the clarinet part. So here we have this in this section. All of a sudden we have that. And there, what? Uh-oh. Something happened. I hope that I can. I still go on, and hopefully everything's okay. He gets stuck once again on that bottom note, and this is something in the clarinet part which I had to talk to you about, because I think it's in the new edition as well. If I can find it going here, where is my? This is my music, but it's so out there. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Oh, the battery is down. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have to talk. Yeah. So, in the clarinet part, in this place, he has at this point. This is before 33, and you can see he at that point. This is he has diminuendo, and then he says e rallentando molto, and then there's another diminuendo right at this point. That way. This is a mistake. And maybe I will show it to you in the manuscript. Here's his manuscript, and let me see. There are two of them. Let me see if I can. No, that says okay. I think. Yeah, here he doesn't have. Here he put it in. This is the cleaner version. It was okay. Let's make sure. We're having electrical problems. Are we all right? Okay, it's a little different, but here, you see, the diminuendo is here. Now, what happened when they published it is they took that diminuendo and put it here. But then because it's here, they put it there as well. You see. But in this place, up here, this makes no sense. Because this is, again, an exact example of he gets stuck. And that's getting stuck has psychological significance. So that from here, this is that E is goes is that way. Then he breaks, and that's where we have our diminuendo. And then and the next part here, when remember that we need our A natural. So it is that comes into this grand, most romantic section of this piece. But why is this A natural important, aside from the fact that he actually wrote it? And that's probably important enough. It's just, if we go to the end of the first cadenza, and I don't know if maybe I mentioned this earlier, but I don't remember, so I mentioned it again. The first cadenza, you know where that is going to. So we have this here. Then here, A natural after the A flat. And then moves on. You see, so again, this piece, which people say is just stream of consciousness somehow, is not at all. It's very carefully organized, and different sections connect, but they connect not in a superficial or very obvious way, but in a very sophisticated and subtle way, which as performers we should somehow bring out, to bring out this sense of continuity in the piece, and the sense of dealing with, in a way, memory. Yeah. So that this is, oh yes, like that. Oh yeah, this is like that before. Just like that. But because it's memory, it's not simply a carbon copy, but it is an impression. There are different layers of memory in this, so that in the part where I explained before with all these romantic gestures, that again has to do with memory. So memory of maybe some piece that I played when I was little or something of that sort. But in a way that's not clear. So we go on, and I will not really spend much time on this particularly, but at the end of this we have there, F, and that signifies that we are actually coming home finally, but we don't. And he has his second children's theme here, which comes out of that, of course, and supposedly this came to him in a dream. Although we don't know which of these children's melodies came into the dream, but they are there, and they are very, again, obviously naive. But what happens to them is kind of really, finally. And just to go on, just very superficially, now we go on to, so this is, so we have again this going from the B natural to the A, so this half step, and going on. So again this half step tension or indecision, that is. So it never stays at the, and then that of course ends up after being this very weird section, but it's actually one of the sections which makes the most sense of this piece. In fact, where we go from here. And then it keeps going up. Then here. Again with this F sharp. It's like, you're not home yet. And the clarinet with this kind of woo, with this molto tranquillo, but it's not at all tranquillo, of course, with this. With this kind of, it's almost like you're drowning in something. And if we move on, and then we come back to this, which is an A major related to E major, and then going to B major here. So it's all this sort of, again, this kind of this other personality sort of making itself felt, even though finally touching and sort of dramatic and also grand way, I would say, we come finally home to F major. Did I play that? I played that wrong, right? No, it was okay, I think. Anyway, F. And then with this. And we move on. my favorite part of this whole piece. That one. With this. As we have this. Which combines the two personalities into this primary F. And then D flat. And what I don't understand is in the new edition, they don't have these poco crescendo diminuendos, which seems absolutely absurd to me because we have this. And then that again, this section. Then again. Then draw to here. You see. And the crescendo comes exactly on. So we have that. And we're finished with this piece. So I'm glad you could bear with me about this. What time do we have now? It's probably...
Perfect timing.
Yeah? Okay, well, I didn't have time to go on to the next, so that means that we must have a live stream next week. And that one will be about what is the nature of first editions. Not first edition, I'm sorry, original versions.
Oh, what?
Different pieces. And with that, there are cases in with every composer basically. But I will actually deal with Brahms. I will deal with Mendelssohn. I'll deal with Beethoven a little bit, but I will mostly deal with Debussy and especially Copland. So, thanks for bearing with me. And before I go, I just put in a last rant about the latest edition of this concerto, which I think is really, I can't call it criminally. Yes, I know I have to, I'm trying to say something which is not too inflammatory. Which is incompetent. Okay, that's right. So, if you can pick up in some secondhand music store or something, the old edition, that's okay. And do I have this here? See, I'm very lucky because I have, oh, I don't have my, the one, is this it? No.
It's okay.
I have, this is the second edition that my father bought for me. See, that's $5.40. But I have the edition that he used when he was a student. That was $2.50. So anyway, please everyone, be well and keep playing. Keep in our world of music, and hopefully we can influence people to be involved in enterprises which are somehow more stimulating for the mind and more beneficial to humanity than what we often see in the world today. Okay, take care.